on the beat. This is Mixlaw Production.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. Welcome back to another edition of World History According to the Bible. My name is Shamar Yat, and to my right,
It's Sha'ak Yahawada.
Khan. And tonight we're going over Genesis chapter 17 all the way up to 35. Getting into some of the history, following the story of our forefather Abraham onto Isaac, some mentioning of the covenant. So this is all really important history to know as far as understanding the progenitors of our nation, right? It didn't, or even understanding some of the more basic things such as Abraham and Isaac not literally being Israelites. They were father and grandfather to Jacob, who then had his sons, the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. But it's important to know this history because it's foundational work that all of our understanding and ultimately everything that comes after this point within the scriptures dealing with Israel starts in this story. So we're going to start off at Genesis chapter 17, and we're going to start at verse 1. Going to be a lot of reading with us tonight.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 17, and verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee.
Go ahead.
And I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make the nations of thee, and the kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee.
So Abraham is 99. This is an older man already. And the Most High is appearing unto him, not only telling him to be perfect, but he said, look, first and foremost, his name was Abram. We always call him Abraham. His name originally started off Abram, and he said, okay, because there are going to be so many nations coming from you, I'm going to call you Abraham, right? He said, your children are going to be exceedingly fruitful, and I'm going to establish my covenant with you. This is literally the start of our story. As far as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this is the start, right? This is where the Most High is actually coming to Abraham saying, you have so much favor that it's not just going to be you during this life, but you're so favored, even your children are going to receive of your blessing. Go ahead.
Verse 8, And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
So here's something that I didn't even know coming into the until I came into the truth, rather. Even the act of circumcision itself really should only be practiced amongst our people. This is a covenant that has been given to us by the Most High. Nowadays, we see a lot of these, we see a lot of things that have already become commonality for us. Everybody having a Bible, that hasn't even always been so. Even amongst the children of Israel, everybody didn't have a Bible, but all these other nations wouldn't have access to our records and our books like this. Even the act of circumcision, they wouldn't all have been even aware necessarily of the circumcision itself, because it was given by God to Abraham saying, look, this is going to be a sign between me and you and your children after you. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man-child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
And that's an important fact as well, Salakia. On the 8th day specifically, he said every child on the 8th day. So that's still something. If you have, or rather, that's still a law that's in effect to this day. When you have a man-child on his 8th day, that's when he's supposed to get circumcised. Go ahead.
Verse 13. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant.
Go ahead.
And God said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon the face, and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear?
Salakia. So first and foremost, that shows the importance of the circumcision, right? Anyone who's not in this, you're not officially adopted into this covenant. So to this day, and we've had a number of brothers come into the truth because it's not all that common of a practice, well in age that have to get circumcised in order to be accepted in this covenant. This is what the Most High still requires. It's much easier if you get it done when you're a child, but not everyone has that luxury, right? All praises for sure. Then he says, and not only, so this is also the favor that Abraham had. He said, not only is it going to be your children that are actually of you, even your wife, she's going to be blessed and highly favored because of what I'm going to give you, Abraham. Then Abraham, because they old, right? Yes, our forefathers would live longer typically, but 100 years old was still a man well up in years. So he's laughing like, I'm 99. It's probably been, out the game for a while, just coexisting with his wife without the fleshly, pleasures and things of that nature. He said, but, we going to have some children? The Most High said, yeah, absolutely. Y'all going to still have a child. 99 and 90. Yes, it's going to happen. Go ahead.
Verse 18.
Uh-huh.
And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee.
Uh-huh.
And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
So Abraham felt for his other son. He said, man, that Ishmael might be the one. Most High was like, yeah, Abraham, because of my love for you, I'll give Ishmael something. He'll still have 12. It's going to be 12 great princes to come from him. We just actually went over it this past Friday, the Room 144 lesson. All practicing Muslims that follow after the Prophet Muhammad actually get their pride and their actual nationality from descending from Ishmael, saying that we come from a great nation. Yeah. So the Most High was like, yeah, I hear you. I'll still bless Ishmael for your sake. But he said, ultimately, I'm only going to be dealing with Isaac. And you hear a number of times where the Most High calls Isaac Abraham's only son. He said, it's the only one that I see. It's the only one that I got some value for. Go ahead.
God. Verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. Yeah. Verse 22. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all that were born in the house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him.
Go ahead.
And Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Man.
Jeez.
So not only was this covenant given to him, when we talk about Abraham's faith and his sacrifice and his devotion to the Most High, there are a lot of elderly people. I've heard so many times, because, we all start to hear a lot of the same reasonings and, you know, things. When you start coming into this truth, you start talking to your family, and you get different responses from different people. Some people, they got a little knowledge. They want to debate and they want to naysay. Some people are just straight up atheists. They don't want to talk. And then some people might come at you with the cult angle, and then you got the, man, you got the rest of your life to follow that. You heard that one? And that's usually from your older folks. I heard that from, you know, some of the elders in my family. You got the rest of your life. All these things. But I've heard that one. You got the rest of your life to follow this religion. Are you telling me you're not going to do this and do that, and you turning down a job because you can't work to side? And the whole thing was, Abraham didn't have that mentality. There was never something that was too much for the Most High to ask of Abraham. I never see Abraham say no. I never see Abraham say, Father, this is too much. I just can't. Everything that was asked of Abraham, he was like, what do you want me to do next? And I know it must have been difficult. He's a 99-year-old man. Pretty sure his healing factor is different. You heal differently when you're older. The discomfort. Also, he's lived 99 years with what he had. But I don't hear him murmur or complain or backbite. At 99 years old, he getting circumcised. And he's circumcising 13-year-old Ishmael. And I think he had, 381 servants? All of them get circumcised. That's his faith. Whew. Let's read on.
Verse 26. In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house born in the house and bought with money of the stranger were circumcised with him.
And you have to think, 381 people, right? I believe this was that was the number that Abraham of his servants that also went out with him to go to the battle. Yeah, to go to that. Those were his trained servants that went out with him to fight. You got to think about the type of influence and the type of man you have to be to get almost 400 other grown men to believe in your cause, to follow in your footsteps, and to be obedient to circumcision in their adulthood. But they seen Abraham, they like, man, he's different. Most High is dealing with him. This is what we got to do, because everybody had their choice. They all could have been like, man, this is like basically a job. I'm quitting. I'm going home. They said, no, okay, everybody that's here, we're gonna continue on with you, Abraham. We'll get circumcised as well. Let's continue on. 18 and 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 18 and verse 1. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre. He sat in the tent of the door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your bread, your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened in the tent unto Terah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd.
He did what unto the herd?
He ran unto the herd.
Go ahead.
And fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man. And he hasted to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat.
So first and foremost, when we're reading these stories, we see all these different attributes of character, right? We see all these things that, yes, this is black and white, right? But the scriptures are so much more than the black and white. And all praise to the Most High, that's actually a section that's in the newsletter here at True Nation, More Than Black and White, really understanding the things that we're reading in the scriptures. Look at the behavior and the character of Abraham. He sees 3 men that he's never met. He don't know. These aren't friends coming to visit to where he's bowing himself to the ground and, oh man, let me treat y'all good because y'all done treated me good. These are strangers unto him. But his humility, his charity, it was an immediate instinct. Hey, look, man, y'all are out here. It's no problem. come and eat with my family. Here, let me prepare y'all some food. He putting his wife to work. He not like, ooh, I would get y'all something to eat, but my wife in there comfortable. He telling her, Sarah, yeah. He said, what? Right. He going in there, and at 90, he telling her, hey, get up and make some bread. Make 3 loaves. I have 3 guests coming or that are already here. He getting water to wash their feet, telling the young men, dress this calf for me. Slaughter it, get it prepared, start cooking it for my guests. That's an incredible character. And absolutely, you know, we live in a dangerous time to where we don't always have not even just the ability, but it's not always the wisest thing to express this, but it's an incredible thing that you see that he had within him, because I don't think it was all that much better. I think it wasn't as evil, but you still had a lot of idolatry, you still had a lot of practices, you still had a lot of wickedness that was in the earth, but Abraham nonetheless was a charitable, caring, respectful, humble individual. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And they said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of thy life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Mm-hmm. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women.
So obviously, she had went through the same process women have now. She was already going through menopause. So she wasn't even in a space of saying, okay, still fertile, still potentially going to have children and all that type of stuff. That was far beyond them. So they think, go ahead.
Verse 12, therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being also old, my Lord being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. And he said, nay, but thou didst laugh.
Now imagine that. First and foremost, that's how much the Most High had his eye on Abraham. He's sitting up here like, out of everyone that's on the earth, this one is special. And because of his favor, his wife is special. So it wasn't like she cracked up laughing and she said she laughed within herself, just low key, like, what do they talk about? It's the second time I'm hearing her. And the Lord told Abraham, so he hears Sarah laughing, then the Lord comes like, oh, so she over there laughing. You feel like, oh, this high. Right. He said, man, it ain't too much for the Lord. Most High was like, this is not too much for me. But he said, look, I'm going to show you. It's going to happen. He prophesied to him. Verse 16.
And the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham, that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. And if not, I will know.
Go ahead.
And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord.
So imagine how locked in Abraham is, where the Most High is considering, he like, man, I'm already finna do this, but should I tell Abraham about it? Should I just go talk to Abraham for a minute? So them other 3 men, it ends up being, well, actually, I don't want to spoil that, but they're there for a purpose, right? And so the Most High is speaking about, he said, you know, I'm hearing this wickedness that's coming from Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to go scope it out and see if it's as bad as what I'm hearing, because I'm hearing that it's bad. But he's talking to Abraham, like, imagine the Most High just consulting him as a friend, like, yeah, this is what's going on with me. They catching up, basically. It's incredible. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place of the for the 50 righteous that are therein?
Drop down to 26.
Verse 26. And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes.
So Abraham, that's the first thing. Now, he's not trying to I'm not being disrespectful, Lord, but I just got to ask you, the righteous are going to die with the wicked? He's like, I understand the wickedness that's going on. I'm sure Abraham knew. It wasn't that far. Sodom and Gomorrah, he's heard about it. He obviously knows to avoid it. He ain't staying there. But he's asking, are you going to destroy the righteous with the wicked? Most High was like, So Abraham says, all right, what if there's just 50? Will you spare it for that purpose? If there's just 50 of them, that's cool. We talking about the whole city. We see how big of a city LA is. LA is what, like 12 million people here? LA City has a higher population, I say this one all the time because it fascinates me, than like 46 or 48 states. Yeah. So you got to imagine Sodom and Gomorrah that's a big city. It ain't no telling how many people are down there. And Abraham's asking, what if there's just 50 of them that are righteous? Most High was like, you know what? Just for the sake of those 50, I'll spare the whole city. Let's drop down to, I kind of laugh at these. Let's drop down to verse 31. Yeah, and he's like, oh, let not the Lord be angry.
All right, give me 5.
Right. The negotiations, right? He like, look, just a couple. We about to read, because this is a funny part of the story that I've always, 32. So Abraham starts negotiating with the Most High, like, Father, what if we find 40? And what if and then he progressively goes lower. Go ahead.
The book of Genesis chapter 18 and verse 32.
Uh-huh.
And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake.
So Abraham is like, what about 40, Lord? What about 30? And he keeps saying, oh, don't let the Lord be angry. 20. And he just keeps going until he finally gets it down to 10. And then he says, okay, well, if only a few, if it's only a few, will you spare for that, for just those few sake? And the Most High says, all right, if it's 10 of them in that whole city, I'll spare the city. Let's go down to 19 and 1.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 19 and verse 1. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them.
Uh-huh.
And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night.
Uh-huh.
And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat.
Yet another aspect of incredible character. You see the humility. Again, he's meeting strangers. Now, Lot he knew he was surrounded by wickedness. He already knew. He's in Sodom and Gomorrah. He's in the belly of the beast. He sees 3 men that he don't recognize, and he's like, look, y'all got to come to my house. Don't worry about it. You can wash your feet. You can get comfortable. It's crazy because a lot of times we don't have that. Like the scriptures tell you, charity and hospitality is a fruit of the Spirit. It's a righteous gift. It's a thing that the Most High is pleased with. And you see that being exhibited heavy within Abraham and Lot, even with total strangers. Lot also understanding the danger of the city that he's in, he passed upon them greatly, and then he incentivizes it. Look, man, come to my house. I'm going to throw a feast. It's not just you going to be comfortable and have a place to sleep. That's enough for most people. He said, I'm also going to cook. I'm going to let y'all wash y'all feet. I'm going to make sure y'all have a good time. You are absolutely taken care of. Go ahead.
Verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter.
Uh-huh.
And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them.
So this always blows my mind. I'm telling you, it always blows my mind because first and foremost, even if the city was one of those little just out in the sticks type of cities, I'm talking about, population 2,000, for everybody in the city to see 3 new men walking around and they all are in one consent saying, hey, not you, But they had already made it up within their mind because Lot was just telling them, hey, man, you got to get off the street at nighttime. It get crazy out here. We're already getting towards the evening. Sun's already headed down. Before they even laid down, but they've had dinner, so what we talking, an hour, two? A mob of men come to the house knocking on the door. Hey, we seen some new, you know what I'm saying? We seen some new walking through here, and I want that. All not only with one consent, but how did the word even spread so fast? Hey, man, there's 3 new dudes out here. Talk about wickedness. That's why you know that Lot was pressing upon them. Like, man, automatically invested in their well-being, knowing that they don't know the danger. He's like, I know this city. I know these men. They're wicked. I know their heart. I know that. He's seeing these new guys that's in the city, not knowing that they're even angels yet, but he's telling them, look, please come into my house. I need you to get off the street because you don't know how bad it gets out here, especially when that sun go down. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore they came unto the shadow of my roof.
So he said, look, I can at least offer you a woman. It's obvious that y'all finna do a whole lot of wickedness. Lot been there. I'm pretty sure his heart was grieved because the righteous, it talks about, you know, righteous men living amongst the wicked, how their hearts are grieved for the acts that they would see performed. But mind you, these men aren't Israelites, but it's still just difficult being around wickedness, right? So he said, look, if it's this bad, I can at least offer you a woman, but just don't touch these men. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal with worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door.
So they threatening Lot now. They like, man, you ain't opened this door yet. We finna do you worse than them. Oh, man, prison. It's terrible. Go ahead.
But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door.
Go ahead.
And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door.
So as Lot is outside trying to negotiate and he's getting threats, the other 3, they just pull him inside and Men in Black style flashed them all, blinded them instantly. Go ahead.
And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord hath sent us to destroy it.
Go ahead.
And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his son-in-law.
So first and foremost, these angels were sent on assignment. Most High is like, hey, go check it out. If it's as bad as what I've heard, destroy it. But if it's not that bad, then come and report to me, and, you know, we'll figure it out from that point. But when they saw this happen, they like, they like, man, Lord, what do we say? It's all these men that gathered to the house. They was all trying to, they like, yeah. They said, Lot, is there anybody else that's important to you? Anybody else that's in this house? He even got an opportunity to go war his sons-in-law, but they like, man, what are you talking about? Right. They thinking he messing with them. Maybe he had a bad day going crazy. I don't know, but ain't nobody moving. So the next morning, the angels gave him an opportunity, and they're telling him, look, you got to get out of here. Drop down to verse 17.
Verse 17. And it came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, oh, not so, my lord.
So first and foremost, the Most High was merciful. I'm sure those instructions that got given to Lot got given to everybody that was willing to leave with him. Don't look back. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? and for my soul shall live.
Drop down to 24.
Verse 24, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven.
So first and foremost, this is still the same God. He not only has these same abilities, he has this same judgment. Imagine if it wasn't for, imagine how, not even imagine, do we understand how merciful the Most High is being nowadays?
No, we don't.
We really don't.
No, we don't. Not even close.
Because look at how often we're talking about an entire country full of wickedness, spreading like a cancer to the other nations of the world, filled with cities, neighborhoods, suburbs, whatever, that are occupied in wickedness and producing more. And the Most High at any point in time could just open up the sky and it can rain fire and brimstone and hail at any time. You know how many studies that at least I personally have come across, this humongous meteor is going to come within a couple 100,000 miles of Earth, and we'd be like, man, that's not all that close. But it ain't nothing to change trajectory, and angle is significant when you have that big of a gap. You learn that when you have to navigate a map. And this, I'm going to make a quick point. If you're using a map, the actual north isn't north, right? And the map at the bottom usually has a little measurement of degrees that you have to adjust to actually find what's called true north. If you don't do that on a map that has even a slight adjustment that needs to be made, you can be miles off by the time that you've gone the distance. Imagine out in space when they detect these things hundreds of thousands of miles away, and it only take it leaning to the left a degree at most, and now it's headed straight for Earth. That's how quickly and easily the Most High could change things and just destroy the earth if he so chooses. And it's not like it's not wicked. Let's read on.
Verse 21, and he said unto him, see.
Oh, no. I mean from 25.
Verse 25.
Uh-huh.
And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities.
Go ahead.
Verse 25, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt.
And they was told not to do that specifically. Don't look back. Whatever you hear, whatever you seeing from the shadows or whatever the light that's in front of you, don't look back. But she did and was immediately handed a judgment. Drop down to verse 30.
Verse 30, and Lot went up to Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and the two daughters with him. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his two daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father.
First and foremost, the city that Lot was originally going to go to, it said he feared to dwell there. Mind you, he just came out of Sodom and Gomorrah, so I don't know if it was that much worse or he already knew it was bad, but he like, at least I know the streets of Sodom and Gomorrah, I know how to navigate. But that says a lot about that city. But then also you have to think, with Lot following the Lord and being righteous in the eyes of the Most High, you know he was instructing his household, but that also goes to show how much of an influence environment has. Even his daughters, they must have already understood incest was wrong, it was wicked. But they've already in a space that fornication has had quite a sense of normalcy, to where their most logical option at this point is, well, they're going to have sex with their own father in order to allow his seed to continue on. Go ahead.
Verse 33. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed for our father.
So wickedness, and it's nasty. This is how you get, you'll read in verse 37 and 38, this is how you get Moab and Ammon. Let's drop down to, let's start at 20 and 1. chapter 20, verse 1, Con.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 20, and verse 21.
Oh, I'm sorry, 20 and verse 1.
20 and verse 1. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 20, and verse 1.
Go ahead.
Journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, She is my sister. And she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this.
So Abimelech, first and foremost, he has a nightmare. And the Most High is speaking to him saying, look, you dead because you took another man's wife. On top of that, we're not just talking about any old man. We're not just talking about any old wife. So he understands that that he messed up, but he's saying, you know, Lord, I've done this being ignorant, only going off of what they've told me at this point. Let me see. Let's drop down to verse 11.
The book of Genesis, chapter 20, verse 11. And Abraham said, Because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet, indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife.
So mind you, that doesn't mean his biological sister. He's saying that they share a forefather, right? It doesn't mean that this is his, because first and foremost, we already know that the laws are still in effect or have already been in effect prior. Obviously, Cain and Abel, it was wicked for Cain to kill his brother. We see the dietary law being practiced with Noah, taking clean animals, 7 of 7s, unclean animals, 2 and 2s. There are a number of examples, even before the birth of Moses, where the law has already been put into effect. So this is not his biological sister, but he's saying, she's of my father's lineage. But he said, ultimately, he's like, man, when I came here, you know how the world is. You know, you heard of Sodom and Gomorrah. You know of Zoar. You know of these lands that we dwell in. It's wickedness out here. He thought to himself, the fear of the Lord surely can't be in his house. So for us to be able to get out of here alive, we're going to act like brother and sister. We're going to play it cool. And when we have an opportunity, we're going to get out of here. But let's drop down to verse 14.
Verse 14. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servants and woman servants and gave them unto Abraham and restored him Sarah his wife.
And drop down to verse 18.
Verse 18. For the Lord had fast closed up all the wounds of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife.
Yeah, you'll see in verse 17 that Abraham had to pray for Abimelech's house to be healed. So the Most High had told Abimelech, hey, this is a prophet that you got in your house, and that's his wife. He's like, man, there's going to be a consequence, but when he prays on your behalf, all of this will be lifted from you. But man, talk about power. That's also what the Most High put into Abraham's hands just because of the favor that he had. Let's start at 21 and 1.
Verse 21. Chapter 21. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 21, verse 21.
No, verse 1. 21 and 1.
21 and 1, my bad. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 21 and verse 1. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken.
Go ahead.
For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him.
Sheesh. 100 years old when he's having a baby boy. Man. Go ahead.
What is this, verse 5? Yes, verse 5. No, verse 6. And Sarah said, Go, And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me.
Uh-huh.
And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned.
And that's not what this lesson is about, but you see that our people celebrated milestones. A lot of jakes are like, oh, it's so wicked to celebrate birthdays and these things, and every day is the Lord's Day, and they go to Job when he's going through all this hell, and cursed be the day I was born, and you getting that all out of context. Abraham was holding feasts. First and foremost, this is the progenitor of our nation and all of our father. Let's be careful how we talk about him. But he had a feast celebrating a milestone of his son, saying, look, oh, he's finally eating solid foods. We're going to have a feast and get him a little baby plate. It was a celebration, and no harm, no foul. Go ahead.
Where we at, verse 9?
Yes.
Verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking.
Uh-huh.
Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of his bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac.
Go ahead.
And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of the bondwoman. And all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called.
Now imagine that. So Sarah sees Ishmael mocking, and she's like, man, I don't, she don't appreciate that. So she go to her husband, man, get rid of this bondwoman and her son. Then mind you, then the Most High come in. Hey, don't worry about it. Go ahead, get rid of them. don't feel no type of way about it. Go ahead and just send them out. He said, ultimately, I'm only really dealing with Isaac anyway. Don't feel bad because it's your son. I get that. Don't feel bad. Just go ahead and send him. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not. For God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation.
So even the Most High in his mercy, he's still saying, look, you may not be coming up, to the same degree as Isaac, may not have the same value. But he said, look, the Most High is merciful unto you too. He said that this child is going to be raised, and he's also going to be a great nation. Take comfort, take solace in the fact that it's not just going to be, y'all are cast out, you're nothing. He said he's also going to be a great nation, just not heir to this throne. Go ahead.
Where am I at? 17?
18.
Verse 18. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt.
So from that point forward, they wasn't coming up in Abraham's house. He wasn't side by side with Isaac. Isaac was separate, and that's what it means to be holy. The Most High literally separates and isolates men that he wants to groom and grow. He has them separate, set apart. Let's go to... Let's drop down. Let's drop down to chapter 22. Start at chapter 22.
Chapter 22, verse 1?
Yes.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 22, in verse 1.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac,
Go ahead.
whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of.
Uh-huh.
And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son and clave the wood for the burnt offering and rose up and went up to the place which God had told him.
So not only is the Most High only acknowledging Isaac as his only son, this is also the only son he has left that's actually coming up with him. His son Ishmael is gone with his mother. He's out in the wilderness, grows up, has his whole history going on, and, you know, he has his whole life at this point. But ultimately, he's like, look, this is the last son that's actually coming up in your house that you see it every day. Yeah, you know that son? Go sacrifice him. And what did Abraham do?
Verse 4. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off.
Abraham didn't withhold his son. Took a 3-day journey. Now, mind you, Isaac don't even know. He finds out way towards the end what's going on. Abraham has this in his mind for 3 days. 3 days. They got to take a journey together. He meditating on it. He thinking about it. I'm pretty sure all the things, maybe it's a test. Maybe I ain't really got to, maybe he going to replace, he trying to.
Sent his first son off.
Right.
That's
This
the one he was like, all right, Lord, let me give him something. Like, don't trip, it's going to be good.
man, he already advocated for the first son,
But he sent to offer.
and then he got the second son, and he like sacrificed this one. Abraham, go ahead and give me this one. Yeah, it's a 3-day journey. I know Abraham's trying his best in obedience to reckon and understand, because it's natural for us to try to be like, let me try to wrap my mind around this. But nonetheless, he's trying to wrap his mind around it while he's walking to his destination, while he's being obedient. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again unto you.
Uh-huh.
And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and he went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I, my son.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, behold the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering?
And mind you, Isaac is intelligent enough to understand, Father, I see you make sacrifices. What we sacrificing? He's like, I see the wood, I see the knife. We not just going up to worship. We're obviously going to sacrifice at this point. He said, but what are we going to sacrifice? What are we offering? Go ahead.
Verse 8. And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together.
Go ahead.
And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here am I. And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me.
So, man, and it's not like Abraham has the confirmation all early. It's not like they get there and they at the foot of the mountain. Already thinking about this for 3 days, he doesn't get an immediate confirmation that, don't worry about it, this is all it tests. He go up the mountain with him. Isaac asking questions in his curiosity. Dad, I see the fire. I see the knife and the wood. How is this going to work? He bounds Isaac, lays him on the wood, and it's like, damn, I'm really about to do this. Lifts up his arm with the knife in it to slay his son, and then he gets told, all right, you did good. You did good, Abraham. Now I know you really fear the Most High, because you wouldn't even hold back your only son. Man. Man, oh man. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son.
And one more thing I want to, because I'm thinking of, every parent always has this innate desire for their children to surpass them, right? I want better for you. I don't want you to have to go through the things that, have shaped me. And you might be a great person, but the things that shaped you and matured you are oftentimes painful. And you don't want your children to have to mature and grow in that painful state that has made you who you are. So mind you, you also got to consider Abraham must have had this desire. And mind you, he already knows, oh man, the Most High has chosen me and through me chosen you. You're going to get better. You're going to have more. You're going to be something. And in the midst of all that, tested so greatly to say, sacrifice your son. Give him to me. Give him back. And let it be your hand. You're not sending him off and you're just never going to see him again. You're going to do the one to actually, man, there's just so much that comes to mind that we can just keep delving into to understand the gravity of what he was told to do. And all praises to the Most High. After the Most High approved him, he said, all right, I know where we at. Then he finds a ram caught by its horns. Which verse did we stop at? 14? Okay. So then he finds a ram stuck by his horns and is like, all praises. I get to offer this instead of my son. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh.
Jehovah Jireh. Go ahead.
As it is said to this day, in the mountain of the Lord it shall be seen.
And Jehovah Jireh, Yahweh will provide. Yahweh provides. Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea, which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies.
Man, hold it right there. First and foremost, the Most High said, by myself have I sworn. He's like, ain't nobody greater than me. He's like, I'll put that on me that this is what I'm going to do for you. I think, man, as much as, a lot of Jakes be like, man, on me. Yeah, that's on me. But who more significant? The Most High put that on himself. And then it also shows you the Most High had this plan for Abraham, right? But it had yet to come to fruition. And he wanted to prove him further still before he fully gave him these things. And it comes to mind that, oftentimes we want things for our children, our chosen, our loved ones, whatever the case may be. And you can see things or you discover aspects of character, you see restraints or whatever the case may be that kind of causes you to second guess. But the Most High was like, man, seeing this, I'm sure. I know I'm going to, not only did I say I was going to do this, but now I'm sure about it. I feel good about it. I'm doing this for you and I'm doing this for your children. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told to Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah.
I'm sorry. Let's drop down to verse 20. Or actually, let's drop down to chapter 23. So the Most High is promising Abraham that his seed is going to be multiplied as the stars of heaven. Let's start at chapter 23 and verse 1.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 23 and verse 1. And Sarah was 107 and 23 years old. Did I read that right?
130, yeah.
Okay. Were the years of the life of Sarah.
So she lives about, 40 years? I think she got pregnant at 90, gives birth at 91, but then from the time that the angel visited her, she lived about another 40 years. So Isaac is 39 at this point. He's a grown man, seasoned. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And Sarah died in Kirjath Arba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to the mount for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and spake unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I might bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord. Thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres bury thy dead.
Let's drop down to 19. So the rest of this chapter is pretty much Abraham. You see the respect that he had. You see that the people around about him knew he was of a great reputation. Obviously, he had the finances, nothing wrong with that, to be able to purchase a nice sepulcher, which he places his wife's remains. Let's drop down to verse 19.
The book of Genesis, chapter 23, and verse 19.
Uh-huh.
And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is therein were made sure unto Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth.
Okay, for the sake of time, you know what? We might be able to go through it. We'll speed it up if we need to. Let's go ahead. 24:1. Let's keep
The
reading.
book of Genesis, chapter 24, and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things.
Go ahead.
And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by the Lord thy God of heaven, and the God of the earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my sons of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell.
So, first and foremost, Abraham is making Isaac swear. He said, look, the one thing that you can't do is go to one of these uncircumcised nations, especially them Philistines, or excuse me, them Canaanites, and get you a wife. He said, I need you to, if you don't do nothing, I need you to swear that you're not going to do this. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And the
Oh, I'm
servants...
sorry, did we already read 4?
God.
So he said, go to your kindred, go to your people, and find a wife for Isaac. Or excuse me, he was having his servant do this. But let me see. Drop down to verse 10.
Verse 10. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master and departed, for all the goods of his master were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia under the city of Nahor. And he made his camels to kneel down without the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day, and show kindness unto my master Abraham. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, Let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink. And she shall say, Drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. Let that same be the same that thou hast appointed for thy servant Isaac. And thereby shall I know that thou hast showed thee kindness unto my master. And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder.
Let's go to verse 21.
Verse 21. And the man wandering at her held his peace. Lord, his journey prosperous or not. And it came to pass drinking that the man took a golden earring of the half shekel weight and 2 bracelets of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, Whose daughter art thou? Tell me.
So exactly so his servant, Abraham's servant, prays like, man, I know you're the God of my master. Please let this, allow me to be successful, because ultimately he's trying to be successful for Abraham's sake. So he says, I'm not really sure how this is going to look, but can it go this way? Right? It goes exactly that way. And then he starts inquiring, well, whose daughter are you? And, of what lineage do you come from? And immediately, because, Abraham, well, he had that bag. He pulls out all this gold and all these gifts. He's like, look, we're here basically to marry you to Isaac, your Abraham's son, right? Let's see. So ultimately, then she entreats them to come inside, feeds the camels, all that type of stuff. Let's drop down to verse 29. Let's read it.
Verse 29. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out unto the man, unto the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the earring and bracelets upon his sister's hands, when he had heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well.
Down to 33.
33. And there was set meat before him to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told mine errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and the Lord hath blessed my master greatly, and he is become great. And he hath given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and men servants and maid servants and camels and asses. And Sarah my master's wife bare a son to my master when she was old, and unto him hath he given all that he hath. And my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But thou shalt go unto thy father's house, and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son. And I said unto my master, Peradventure the woman will not follow me. And he said unto me, The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with thee, and prosper thy way. And thou shalt take a wife for my son, of my kindred, and of my father's house.
Hold right there. Let's drop down to, so they start having a conversation, understanding that this woman, Rebekah, first and foremost, the servant is explaining, I've been sent by Abraham to find a wife for Isaac. I praise to the Most High that this exact scenario would happen. I got the confirmation. I know that this young woman is supposed to be married to Isaac, according to the Lord's will. Then he even had the backup, well, what if she won't come with me? But nonetheless, it all ends up working out. And drop down to verse 50.
The book of Genesis, chapter 24, and verse 50. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing proceedeth from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord hath spoken.
So they was like, man, if this is from the Most High, we really not going to say nothing good or bad about it. We're just going to go with it. We're going to be obedient. They ended up giving her a lot of gifts as well, send her with a lot of raiment. She wasn't going to Isaac empty-handed. They had their own wealth as well. Down to verse 65, 64.
The book of Genesis 24 and verse 64. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. For she had said unto her servant, What man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother's tent, his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
So two big things that, to highlight. In verse 65, first and foremost, the aspect of humility that she had. A lot of sisters try to argue about the head covering, and it's really a prideful thing because the scriptures explain a woman has a physical head over her on earth, being her husband, right? Or the man, your father, your uncle. You've even seen instances of a cousin, a male cousin, being a guardian and a protector and a guide over this woman, right? So Rebekah, already understanding that this is going to be her husband, to show an extra layer of humility, she even takes a veil and covers her face. She covers herself even that much more, saying, wow, this is going to be my husband. This is him, right? But on top of that, she was immediately ready. It wasn't, they already knew, and I know we're so far removed from all of these aspects, right? But she already understood, okay, you come from a good lineage, I come from a good lineage. These men were brothers. They both had wealth. They both raised their house, their servants, their children a certain way. It wasn't really a huge question. But another big thing that she did, she comforted him after his mother's death, right? Intimacy. Let's start at verse or excuse me, let's drop down to chapter 25. Nah, let's start at verse 7.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 25, and verse 7.
Go ahead.
And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 163 years.
175 years old. Go ahead.
Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, and an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field
Go ahead.
of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre.
So this is the same sepulcher that Abraham had previously purchased to bury Sarah in, right? So he gets buried in that sepulcher with his wife. Let's drop down to verse 19. You get a lot of the genealogy, very important, but for time's sake, we're not going to go into every single name.
The book of Genesis 25 and verse 19.
Uh-huh.
And these are the generation of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian.
So Isaac was 40 before he married his first wife. 40. Man. So he was a like I said, an older man. Already had that experience, already had that life. And at this point his wife was given unto him. Let's continue on reading from there.
Verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived.
So this is also a common thing. A lot of times we try to, I've seen people reason with things so many different ways. Oh, it's because of the food we eat. It's because of the stuff that's in our food. It's because of this. But even back in, we talking about not too far from the beginning of the world itself, you see it was a number of instances where women were struggling to conceive. It was fairly common, honestly. Especially of the righteous. We don't hear about everybody. But out of those that were significant in our story and in our history, you hear a lot of women that struggle with this. So Isaac prays unto the Most High, hoping that Rebekah's womb will be opened and she'll be able to have a child, and she is. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
So Rebekah, mind you, they've been waiting. I'm not sure if it tells us exactly how long they had already been married at this point. It says that he was 40 when they got married. Maybe we'll get some more detail later, but he prays for his wife. She finally pregnant. I don't think they had the pregnancy test. She didn't have a stick. She waited 2-3 months. She's like, oh, I ain't got a cycle. Belly getting big. It's time to celebrate. So she's happy about this, but now she's having pregnancy complications. And so she goes and is trying to figure out from the Most High, we've been waiting on this. You allowed this to happen. Why are all these complications occurring? Most High answers her, look, it's not no ordinary pregnancy. There's 2, you're about to give birth to the progenitor of 2 entirely different nations. 2 nations very different from one another as well. However, they are going to be twins. One people is going to be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
Go ahead.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau.
Go ahead.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
There's the detail. So they waited 20 years in their marriage. They got married at 40, and she didn't have these children until Isaac was 60. So at least 19 years before she got pregnant. That's a long time to be trying to figure out what's going on and entreating the Most High and finally have these children. It's a long time, but she had that faith as well. Then you get the infamous Jacob and Esau. Esau comes out first, red and hairy. Also, obviously different, because if everyone was red and hairy, this wouldn't be some shock. But Jacob, you know the saying, I'm on your heels, came out literally holding on to his brother. And there's the prophecy already being laid out. The elder shall serve the younger, and twins, whoever is born first is the elder. Esau is going to serve Jacob. Go ahead.
Verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
Go ahead.
And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom.
Called red.
And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright.
He came back with a hell of a comeback. He like, you really hungry? You know, the birthright is supposed to go to the elder. Now, the Most High has it set up to where it don't always work out that way. You see a number of instances where the birthright ends up going to the younger brother, Jacob and Esau, Ephraim and Manasseh. You see Reuben and Judah. Yeah. You see a number of times where it's actually that younger brother that ends up getting that blessing. But Jacob sees an opportunity. He like, man, not that hungry. If you that hungry, give me your birthright. I'll give you some. Go ahead.
And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. What profit shall his birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
So first and foremost, and I'm not even going to be facetious because all type of Karen jokes just come into my mind. But obviously Esau wasn't that close to death. Obviously. He didn't have some long rehabilitation process of him learning how to walk. He was just hungry and just being impatient. And he didn't even at least want to wait 20, maybe it was an hour for the food to be ready. He just like, man, I'll just do anything. And I'm pretty sure being brothers, he would have just gave him some food anyway. But more than anything, I think that this shows how little Esau regarded the Most High. This your brother. Y'all done shared plenty of meals at this point in your life. You sat down at the table plenty of times. I'm sure just like with any relationship, long-term relationship, there's a give and take. There's an exchange. And I'm sure Jacob would have had no issue with, once the food was ready, giving his brother some food. But he like, man, you crying and begging me like that? Well, how important is it to you? Esau was like, look, man, you want this birthright, the Most High and all that? Here, I swear, it's yours. That's how easy it was for him to disregard the Most High. And the same thing like Cain and Abel, Esau despised Jacob and his birthright because his own works was evil. You cast off the Most High. You dealt with him and this right, literally that was God given with you being the firstborn like it was nothing. And from all of that, as opposed to a disdain within himself for himself, he starts hating Jacob. Let's pick it up, chapter 26. Let's start at verse 6.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 26 and verse 6. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked him of his wife. And he said, she is my sister. For he had feared to say, she is my wife, lest, said he, the men of that place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king... No.
This is the same story.
Yeah.
Like father, like son.
Exactly.
With this, is this the same king? This that same Abimelech?
It's not the same. I don't think
It's a later Abimelech,
Yeah.
right? Because we talking. Hold on. Abraham and Sarah. Excuse me. Yeah. Abraham and Sarah. We talking decades later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this may be Abimelech Jr. Abimelech the third. Right. But the same situation where Abimelech the king is interested in his wife, and out of fear, thinking that these people don't fear the Most High, he ends up saying, just like his father Abraham did, that this is my sister. And the same way, pick it up at verse 9. The Most High checks it.
Verse 9, and Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And hast thou said, and Salakia, and Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And how saidst thou, She is my sister? And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have leaned with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltlessness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sold in that land and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him.
So it's Isaac's time. He starts shining as well. Everything just starts working out and aligning for him because the Most High has ordained it to be so. We read about the wells. The Canaanites ended up trying to, the Philistines had shut down Abraham's wells, called them different names, all because of their envy. Let's drop down to verse 24.
The book of Genesis, chapter 26 and verse 24. And the Lord appeared unto him that the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he builded an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servant digged a well.
Hold on, let's You read down in verse 34, Esau marries Judith, a Hittite. And it says, which was a grief of mine unto Isaac and Rebekah, because they understood, like, man, even though they've been told that he's going to be of a different nation, they're understanding, man, we've always married within the lineage of our forefathers, and you just went out and just got somebody. Man, for real. Let's start at chapter 27, verse 1.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 27 and verse 1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I.
Okay, so for the sake of time, we're going to go to basically what ends up happening. Salakia. So, because Isaac is at this point, he's not able to see very well, if at all. But he's prepared to bless his firstborn, not knowing this interaction between Jacob and Esau that has happened within the field. So Rebekah, really she was Jacob and Esau's mother, but remember that she favored Jacob. So she comes up with a plan, right? Isaac is getting ready to pass on this blessing. And because he can't see, he tells Esau, look, man, I really like your venison. Bring me that meal. Check the date, my brother. Bring me that meal. Oh, Salaki, no, I see what you're saying. Go back up to mine. Look at the numbers. But I concluded here. So ultimately, Jacob or excuse me, Isaac is telling Esau, bring me a meal of venison. Go hunt me some fresh venison, man. You know, I've always been a fan of the way that you made that venison. And after I'm fed and I'm feeling good, man, I'm finna bless you because you know I'm going to do it right when I'm feeling good about you. While this is going on and Esau goes into the field to go hunt, Rebekah realizes, oh, today's the day. Isaac is finna pass on this blessing. So she understands, she favors Jacob and she goes and tells Jacob, look, you're the one who should be receiving this blessing. What we're going to do is we're going to put you in a place to where your father believes that you're Esau and blesses you instead, right? Now, mind you, a whole lot of people try to speculate and say that this was wickedness, oh, it was deception, and Esau was wrong. But remember, we already read Esau sold his birthright for one bowl of basically soup. He didn't regard the Most High, and ultimately the Most High didn't regard Esau. And he already knew what type of spirit he was of prior to him even being born. Remember, the Most High said, Rebekah, there's two nations in your womb. This is what's going to happen. The elders don't serve the younger. There's going to be one that's stronger than another. The Most High is already seeing so far down the line. So this wasn't unrighteous. This wasn't something that hadn't already happened, whether Isaac was aware or not. And ultimately, it was according to the will of the Most High. So let's we're going to read just the tail end of this. Let's pick it up at verse 16. So we already know 27. Verse 16. So Esau super hairy. So they come up, they even have a countermeasure for that.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 27 and verse 16. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it unto me.
Go ahead.
And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not.
Go ahead.
And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt them, and said, The voices of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
So I'm pretty sure Jacob put on his best Edomite impression. He goes in there. He like, nah, Dad, the Lord brought it to me. He trying to get him to buy into it. Isaac was already prepared. Well, come here then, because Jacob ain't all that hairy, but I already know Esau got them froze on his arm. Let me see what your arm feel like. He feel did we read that? Oh, it was back up in verse 10. Rebekah already understood that Isaac was more than likely going to be skeptical, so she took some, what was it? Was it sheepskin? Kids, yeah. So she took either a sheep or a goat and put some of the skin over his arms so that Isaac would be able to feel the hairiness on his arms. Be like, oh, all right, this really must be Isaac, right? Let's go to, I see on verse 23.
And he discerned him not, cause his hand were hairy as his brother Esau's hand. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau?
My bad. Let's drop down to verse 27.
Verse 27. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of raiment and blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed.
Now look, he already know. He said another thing is Esau smelled like a barn. So he get close with this goat and this. Yeah, right. He like, yeah, that's my boy right there. He smelled like that field that the Lord has blessed. He know Esau, right? So he like, yeah, that's him. I smell him. Read on.
Therefore, God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and the wine.
Go ahead.
And let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting.
Go ahead.
And he also had made his savory meat, and brought it in unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father.
So first and foremost, that just shows the lack of integrity that Esau has, because he's already sworn this blessing unto Jacob. Didn't tell nobody else. He getting prepared to be given this birthright from Isaac, as if there hasn't already been an exchange that's happened, right? Cries a bitter cry. But mind you, is this because he regards the Lord so much, or is he like, dang, I gave away all this power and authority and all the things that was in it for me, I just realized I'm losing them. Now he's devastated. He upset about it. Go ahead.
Verse 35, and he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob?
Jacob meaning supplanter. Go ahead.
For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He hath taken away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me?
Go ahead.
And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren I have given to him for servants. And with corn and wine and have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?
I love the way you're bringing this to life. The little inflexes in the voice, you really making him sound like an old man. I love it. So not only was his birthright given to Jacob, but also his blessing now. So he like, man, all right, maybe I did give him the birthright. That's the whole thing. But he like, dang, even the authority and the stuff that we're going to have on earth, that's his too? Let me see. So then, out of, Isaac wanting to do something for his son, he still gives him something. He said, you're going to dwell with the fatness of the earth, the dew of the heaven. But he tells him, let's read verse 40, because that's an important aspect.
The book of Genesis, verse 40. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
Go ahead.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of the mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she went and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, proposing to kill thee.
So Esau, he gets a little something, but he said, you're still going to serve your brother, because that's what the Most High has already ordained. But he said, first and foremost, the first thing he says is, you're going to live by the sword. All these nations that Esau's in control of, they only rule because they're like, anyone who steps out of line, it ain't nothing to deliver a little democracy. Next thing you know, it's the planes flying over, the occupation, the innocent deaths, the 20-year war with no clear purpose. That's how Esau lives. It's by the sword. And we already know all the modern-day technology and weaponry. America, I think, has the biggest budget of anything that it invests in is in military and weaponry. So that's how he lived. That's how Esau get it. He says... But then Isaac also tells him, at a certain point, you're going to break the yoke off of you're going to break your brother's yoke off of your neck. There's going to come a point in time in y'all's history that you're going to come into power, and you're going to have the dominion for a time, right? Then Esau, frustrated by this news, decides that he's going to mourn for his father for a little bit, And then the next thing that he's going to set his focus upon is trying to kill Jacob. Rebekah hears this conversation. She hears that this is what he intends to do. And she actually sends Jacob away. Let's read 44 down on to the end.
Verse 44. And tarry with him a few days. I might as well read 43. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise. Flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran.
Go ahead.
And tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury turn away.
Go ahead.
Until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day?
Go ahead.
And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me?
So Rebekah, realizing the danger, she's like, man, I'm going to send you to live with your uncle for a little while. She said, I'm already about to lose Isaac. Why should I also lose, on top of a husband, a son? So she sends him away, ultimately to hopefully be kept until safe haven. Obviously, we know that it works. Spoiler alert. We're still here. And he dwells there for a time. But this is going to continue. There actually is, I believe, in 1 week. Brothers are going to continue on in this story, I think, from chapter 25 to 50. We already are at the top of 28. So stop here. Hopefully this is informative. Again, there's a lot of things to be able to take away from this and highlight the character of the men, the specific stories that we see. And also, I like to imagine what those days must have looked like. There's a lot of mind-blowing, glorious stories within the scriptures that, yes, reading informs us of and is incredible to read about, but it's like, man, to have seen it with your own eyes. But that's kind of, that old quote. They say books are like having conversations with people of the past. We see the things that were happening. We see the emotion. We see the events. We see the things that took place and how they went. We see all these things just by being able to read our history. So, again, I hope this was informative, Israel. We appreciate all the love and support on the classes. Please like, share, and subscribe. And with that, we say shalom.